Hi guys, welcome to another video and welcome to a rather grey day in South Tyneside. Now today I'm going to discuss something you can do that will make you a better landscape photographer, and the good news is it doesn't require any gear, it's totally free, and there's no reason why you can't start doing it straight away. But before we start discussing that, I'm going to jump straight into a photo. Now I've come to Marsden, which is in South Tyneside, not far from South Shields. And I came here last week and I actually took the panoramic shot, which you're going to see on the screen at the moment. And my plan was to actually record a video here last week. But as you can see, the conditions were a lot different. It was a lot more blustery. To be honest, it was a battle standing up, let alone setting up a tripod and trying to talk to a video camera. So I had to give that one a miss. But I did vow that I would come back at some point. However, I'll be honest, these aren't the conditions I expected to come back in. I expected to come back probably sunrise, lots of colour in the sky, lots of nice golden light on the rocks. But no, here we are on a rather overcast day at the tail end of November. But you know what, there's no reason why I can't take photos in these kind of conditions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be realistic about what I can take, and I'm going to work with the conditions. So first of all, I'm actually trying to do a long exposure. Now as you can see, it's a really interesting coastline here. And it surprises me that I don't photograph it very often. But for the purpose of the shot I'm taking at the moment, I'm concentrating on this little sea arch in the distance there, which I'm hoping you can see. And I'm going for a very tight square crop where I've just got this rock here and the sea arch itself in a simple 1:1 aspect ratio. So it's probably not going to surprise you that I've set my camera to black and white. Now the reason why I've set it to black and white, even though I'm shooting raw, is so I can sort of pre-visualise how it will look in black and white. Well, to be honest, there's not that much colour to distract today, so it probably wouldn't have been that much of an issue. But I think for me, it just sort of helps the process if I can sort of get an idea straight away of how it's going to look through the electronic viewfinder. So ultimately, a really simple shot. I'm going to quickly talk you through the settings. So I've put the camera into time mode, which has allowed me to set a 60-second shutter speed. Now this is a feature I actually really like with this camera. I've set the aperture to f16. I'm shooting the base ISO of 125, and obviously the reason for these three different settings is I want to try and maximise the blur in the clouds and in the water. I really want a milky water effect, and I'd really like streaky clouds. So I've set those to those. I've put on a 2-second self-timer to eradicate any camera shake when I press the button. And then I've taken a couple of shots and I will choose the one which I find the nicest. But all in all, a great start to a day where I would normally actually have stopped inside. Well, I was actually really pleased with that shot. I think what I'm going to do now is I've got to try and navigate back down from this sort of rock ledge, avoiding all this green stuff here, and try and get onto the beach over there and maybe work my way round. And I think what I'm going to do, considering the conditions, is I'm actually going to try and see if there's any sort of detail shots I can take, because there's some really interesting rocks around here, so I'm sure I'll be able to find something. I think what's interesting about here is there's a lot of rocks which are really different colours, so it's making me wonder, potentially a black and white and sort of get the different tones of grey, or maybe even a colour shot, even though it's quite overcast. That actually works in my favour for this kind of photography. So there is actually quite a lot of colour going around, so yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of a scout around, I think. But I'm pretty confident I'm going to find quite a nice shot here. Something that I wouldn't normally take. Well, I've got a shot and I really like it. And I'm going to quickly show you what I'm photographing. As you can see, there's my tripod set up. I've put the 60mm macro lens on it. I've discovered that I can't use a polarising filter on this lens, which is a bit annoying. But essentially, if I take it straight underneath, I'm photographing this sort of little rock channel here and these rocks there. And I really like it. It's not a shot I would normally take, but because I'm out today, you know, and I'm sort of forcing myself essentially to get some photos, then I found something I really like, and that's the stupid thing, and that's what I want to talk to you about really. Now I'm going to be honest, I'm quite guilty of not going out unless the conditions are perfect, or I think they're going to be perfect. So take, for example, today I woke up, it was a little bit drizzly, it was a little bit grey, it was a little bit boring and dull, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stop at home and just do some paperwork, do bits and bobs, catch up on editing. I don't know, I was basically doing anything apart from coming out and taking photos. But I know that is a really bad mindset. And this led me to start thinking about how we're all probably quite prone to not getting out there unless we think we're going to get the perfect shot. And how it's far easier to say, oh, I'll go out tomorrow instead of actually just getting up, packing your bag and getting out the door. And here's another way of looking at it. If we just go out and shoot in perfect conditions all the time, when we do come out and the conditions aren't as perfect as we would expect, what do? Do we just turn around and go back home? I'm guilty of that at times, I'll be honest. But of course, that's really missing lots of different photography opportunities. You don't need perfect light and perfect skies to take good landscape photos. I was really pleased with my long exposure I took over there, and I'm pleased with this shot I'm taking here, even though they're both very different and both something that I wouldn't normally photograph. But what I do know is if I'd have stopped at home and not come out, I wouldn't have taken these shots. Now, photography is like anything. You need to practice. So for me, the very act of coming out today means I am practicing my photography. This doesn't always mean I'm going to get the most amazing photos or even photos that I like, and that leads to a possible danger of going on a negative spiral of taking bad photos and then getting a bit discouraged by the whole process. Because I think what you do need to do is, if you're going out, you do need to try and return with at least one photo that you like. So to avoid that, work around the limitations you have. It's a grey day, it's probably quite a waste of time me doing a big colour vista as such, but it did suit a black and white long exposure shot, which again, I didn't do a big shot as such. I tried to narrow it down and make the composition as simple as possible. And that's what I've done with this detail shot I'm doing here. A nice, simple shot, but again, keeping all the sky out and working around the conditions I have. And these conditions are great for detail shots, but not so good for big, wide shots. So ultimately, I hope the takeaway from this video is that the very act of just going outside with your camera, even if it's local and even if it's for a couple of hours, and even if the conditions aren't as perfect as you would hope they would be, just adds to your knowledge of photography in different scenarios and different lighting situations, and ultimately will make you a better landscape photographer. Right, so as you can see, it is a really simple shot. Just a close-up of these rocks here in the channel that they've naturally fallen in. So I haven't had to do much. All I had to do was find the shot, almost like a bit of fishing really. I'm underexposing the shot by 2/3 of a stop. Now, I would have liked to have also fitted a polarising filter, but I have discovered that annoyingly I can't use a 39 to 58mm step-up ring on the 60mm macro and expect it to be able to focus, so it keeps telling me to turn the camera off. So basically it must be jamming the process. So all I need to do is I need to get a small 39mm circular polarizer to fit on. I don't use this lens very often, but when I do use it, I'm always very pleasantly surprised with just how sharp it is. But yeah, a polarising filter would have been nice on this one. Now, I'm shooting a base ISO again. I'm on a tripod. I've set it for f20. Now, I know some of you are going to be shaking your head at this point, but honestly, this lens is that sharp. At f20 on this, being a macro lens, it's really not an issue. I know everything's going to be nice, and I need to try and maximise the depth of field because really I need everything to be sharp for this shot to work. But yeah, that's it. Nice simple shot, and I think probably a fitting end to this video. So before I put the final shot on, guys, I would just like to say thank you for watching this video, and I do hope you've got something from it. And I do hope you're inspired to just go out with your camera and take some photos, even if you're staying for a really short amount of time. I think just the act of being out and taking photos is going to make you a better photographer ultimately. So yeah, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And here's the final shot. Thanks for watching.